So a few weeks ago now, Star Wars Hunters got a brand new update that has actually sparked a little bit of conversation about whether or not the game could actually launch on consoles down the line, and that is what we're going to be going through today. I'm going to kind of present you guys with a bunch of points that could point at this game launching on consoles, so without wasting any time, let's jump right into it. Now, like I said, the most recent update did add controller support to the game, which has been an absolute game changer. The game plays really well now with the controller, and it actually really suits the game. It actually feels as though it is a console game on my phone, which is pretty ridiculous. I've never really played a mobile game that has felt so good like that, and like I said, it's been a genuine game changer. It has actually made me kind of feel a bit more convinced that this game could genuinely launch on consoles, which is definitely exciting to see, and I think that is something that a lot of people would genuinely love to see, because obviously not all of us are mobile gamers. I never really was until the last year or so, and so I think anything that points at this game launching on consoles is definitely a very good thing. It almost feels as though the game is like made for controller. Now, obviously the game is going to be launching on the Switch, and I will talk about that a little bit more in a second, but playing it with a controller, it doesn't feel like a mobile game when you're playing it. The only element to it that actually sort of feels like a mobile game is mostly to do with the character's movement, and I'm not talking about the actual feel of the movement, just the way that the character looks when they're moving around. That side of it does look like a mobile game, but for every other element of it, it actually does feel as though you're literally playing like a Nintendo game or just like a very low-level console game. It's obviously not a AAA shooter that you would see launching on the PS5, for example, but it does genuinely feel really good, and it really suits playing it with a controller. Now, something else that is very interesting, and this has been there since pretty much they announced the game or first made the website for the game anyway. On the very front page of the website, if you scroll down to the bottom, there is an option to kind of register for news, like just pretty much every game does. You put in your email and they can send you emails when there's like a new update or when they've got an announcement to make, for example. But one thing that is very interesting about that is that in that sort of section where you're filling out your email, it actually asks what platform you generally play on. However, the options are not just Nintendo Switch, iOS, and Android. It actually includes Xbox, PlayStation, and PC. Now, the question I have for myself is, why on earth would they ask that if they weren't trying to gauge interest? If they were set that the game was only going to be on iOS, Android, and the Nintendo Switch, why would they even bother putting those options in there? There's no reason to do that if they're set on how the game is going to launch, like we know it's going to be iOS, Android, and the Switch. That definitely has me thinking, and it's kind of had me thinking since they first put that on the website, probably like, I don't know, close to 2 years ago at this point, I would say. And so now that they've added that controller support, it honestly feels even more realistic that potentially they could be gauging whether this game can actually launch on consoles. Now, like I said, it is also coming out on the Switch, which is technically a console, albeit handheld. So this game is not just a mobile game. It is being made already for a console. It's just not the console that probably most of us play on in terms of an Xbox or a PlayStation. But technically speaking, this is not just a mobile game. It's not like, for example, Galaxy of Heroes, which is obviously another Star Wars mobile game. That game cannot be played on the Switch or on your Xbox or anything like that. It is strictly a mobile game, but this game is not quite the same as that. It is almost like cross-platform in the fact that it's on mobile, but it is also going to be on the Switch. So that alone is very interesting to think about, the fact that it is technically already a console game in a way, and that might kind of make their decision a little bit easier if they do decide to launch it on the Xbox and the PlayStation. They can kind of gauge how it goes on the Switch when the game actually launches and see whether that is actually an option. Now, the game is also made on the Unreal Engine, which for context is the same engine that Jedi Survivor was made on. It's the same engine that a lot of like really popular games, for example Fortnite, many other games out there, they've all been made on the Unreal Engine. It's probably, I would say, the most popular engine in like all of gaming. Now, if it was made on some sort of engine that was, you know, strictly for mobile games or something like that, that would potentially make it a little bit of a hurdle to, you know, port that over and get it ready for consoles and even for the PC. But the fact that it is made on an engine that is generally used for making console and PC games, that is definitely a good sign when it comes to probably just making it a little bit easier to port over to those consoles and sort of get it ready to be available on those consoles if that does end up happening. That has kind of eliminated a big hurdle there, where it could have been locked into some sort of mobile engine that would have made it way too hard for them to actually do that. So it still doesn't make it simple if they do decide to put it on the Xbox and the PlayStation, for example. It's not an easy task. You can't just copy paste it onto the Xbox. That's not really how it works. But yeah, the fact that it is made in Unreal Engine, that is definitely a positive compared to if it was made on some sort of strictly mobile engine. Now, the other thing is that this could also be the reason why the game has taken so long to launch. Like I said in my previous video, the game was meant to launch in freaking 2021. It is now midway through 2023 and the game still has not launched. We don't even have a release date yet. So the game has obviously been in development for a long time. It would have been in development for quite a while before they even announced it. And so maybe the reason it is taking so long is because maybe internally they have actually pivoted to potentially include the Xbox and the PlayStation and potentially the PC as well. Whether they've actually started work on that or whether they've even just sort of started to plan it and it's, you know, changed the way that they wanted to design the game, even if those are still years away, for example. They may have pivoted certain things to allow for, you know, console use down the line. Zynga has actually stated in the past that they want to make a move into the console market in the near future. They said that in, I think, 2022, maybe late 2021. And then Take-Two bought them out last year, who, for context, Take-Two owns companies like Rockstar. They are an absolutely huge entity in the gaming industry. I think they are actually technically one of the biggest, like, companies within the entire gaming industry. So it's a huge company that they've been bought out by. It's not just a mobile company that has bought them. They, like I said, have made games, or at least they own the companies or development studios that make games like Red Dead 2, GTA, some of the biggest games in the history of gaming. And so maybe they want them to take their time with it and sort of launch it on consoles as well. Maybe when they bought them out, they looked at the potential of the game and thought, wow, we could actually launch this on consoles. So you guys take your time, take an extra year or two to work on it so that it can be launched on those consoles as well. Either way, I think it is definitely a very interesting talking point. I do think the game would be absolutely amazing on consoles, and to be completely honest, I think it would all but guarantee a successful game. If they launched this game free on the PS5 and the Xbox Series X, for example, and even the PS4 and Xbox One, I think at that point the game is absolutely guaranteed to be successful, because if it plays well on those consoles, which, like I said, it's playing really well on controller right now, you're going to have a huge player base. And already with the amount of like skins and the battle passes and stuff that they're doing in the soft launch, the game isn't even out yet, the amount of stuff they're doing already, if they could utilize that in the, you know, massive user base of all of the console platforms out there, I honestly don't see a world in where this would launch on a console and not be a super successful game. So I really do hope it launches on console. I think that would make the game feel a little bit more validated to a lot of people, because like I said, not everyone's into gaming on mobile. I do understand that. The exact same game launching on a console would drastically change people's opinion on it, would only get more and more people playing the game. So I really do hope it happens. Whether or not it does happen, I'm not too sure, and I'm really trying to not hold out hope. But like I said throughout the video, there are plenty of reasons why it could be launching on consoles, and I think at this point all we can do is wait and see. I think it is definitely a possibility, but whether or not it happens, I really am not too sure. I'm keen to hear what you guys think though, and whether or not you would try it if it came out on consoles or PC. Like I said, a lot of people haven't really shown any interest in the game because it is on mobile and the Switch, and essentially if you don't own a Switch and you're not a mobile gamer, the game probably does not look interesting at all. But let me know if this would change your mind if the game actually was available on the PS5 and the Xbox Series X. With that being said though, thank you all very much for watching. You guys have a great day, and may the force be with you always.